It's the Chief, bonding with board games and
HAMTAG!
We're here. Judd Vance, Greg Schmidtkins, Bart Brunsheen, and Greg Schmidtkins is kicking us off. What's our topic?
That's right. Today's topic is the top 5 West Front war games. We've done the East Front war games.
World War II.
World War II West Front war games. That's right. I made a point. I didn't pick anything that had any mixed fronts at all. I limited my choice just because, no reason, to only one D-Day game and one Battle of the Bulge game, because obviously there's a lot to choose from there. And there's something, I know this is, it wouldn't surprise me to see a lot on Bart's, because one of the things I noticed out of the games that are out there and the games I have, my gosh, there are a lot of interesting Solitaire World War II West Front war games, right on Saint-Nazaire, for handling the Navy stuff and the British guys trying to blow up the docks, the Patton's Best, London's Burning for the Battle of Britain. There's a lot of Solitaire games. I did not choose any of those either, because my number 5 West Front just barely touches on some of the other fronts, but is Atlantic Storm. This is a card game. It's basically a trick-taking game about the convoy systems in World War II in the Atlantic. There's a Pacific version that's more focused on the Pacific campaigns, but this one is the convoy system. You've got a hand of cards. You're going for PQ-17 that's worth a lot of points, and you get to decide, am I going to try and sink the convoy or going to try and escort it to its destination? And it's interesting for any of you who haven't done it. Everybody plays a card, and some might be Allied, some might be Axis. Whichever side wins, you look at who played the highest card, and they get those points. Plus, there might be some sunk ships. Sometimes you'll have a 1-point convoy, but somebody sinks the Bismarck, and it's worth 6 points. And you just do it for 20 tricks. So it can go pretty quick, especially among people who know the game. But it just gives you a feel for what they went through, and you get to see the Enterprise, and you get to see the British big battleships, and you get to see the Bismarck and the Focke-Wulf 200 airplanes. You might be fighting in the Arctic. So Atlantic Storm is my number 5 West Front World War II war game.
A little hard to get. I've got my copy from playing with you. Pacific Typhoon is the GMT put out Pacific Typhoon. It's the same kind of system in the Pacific. If you can get this, get this. Someone needs to reprint this. This is phenomenal. If you've got 6 buddies together and you want to sit down and play this, it's got a lot of take that. You're jumping on sides and who's zinging, and someone's kind of playing little mini Kingmaker maybe on one little turn.
But you can only play Kingmaker for one trick.
Yes, right. That's exactly right. And that's where it's so much fun, because you're also handling, hey, what am I doing here? And it's great.
You've got to be sensitive to whether your cards are set up to pursue the air, on the surface, submarine warfare. So
and I'll see a card played and go, please go surface, because I've got the perfect card. He went sub.
Does this use the die rolls like Pacific Typhoon?
There are fewer die rolls. There are some cards in this where there's ability, like a submarine wolf pack is when there are several submarine wolf packs in there. You play, it's got a question mark for its combat value. After all of the cards have been played, you roll a d6. So, I rolled a 1 and I lost, and now it becomes this guy gets the point. But if I roll a 6, then I took everything. So, in Pacific Typhoon, there is the reason why I actually prefer this version.
Me too.
In Pacific Typhoon, there is something random or unusual that happens every trick. I'd say, at least half of the tricks here It's just, oh, I'm playing this 3, I'm playing this 2, this person then sees. You get to see sequentially what has happened before you, so you get to react, but you can react intelligently instead of just going, something might happen, so I'll play this other random card.
Atlantic Storm's tighter.
Yeah.
And they both give a real nice feel for the theater of operations.
Right.
You really get an idea of the shipping that had to be taken out and how the subs were in on that.
Right, and you might send out just a little destroyer escort, but that's just enough for the Allies to win, and you end up getting a point because you sent out that destroyer escort.
Yeah.
I haven't got to play this. I love to. Basically, I love Pacific Typhoon so much. The table talk in it. One of the funniest things when we play this, one of the guys in our group is notoriously bad die roller. And I don't know how the guy consistently does this, but when we're doing it, Greg's adding up the scores. It's like Allies have 15, they have 14. But if there's, I say 15 plus 2 die rolls, but this guy was rolling, he'd always just assume 1 and add it to their score.
Yeah.
I never got tired of that.
Right.
You're up.
Okay, my number 5 is. Oh, I did one more. I did what Greg did. The one other limitation, I didn't put any Italian games. I was hoping we'd get to something with North Africa. And maybe I thought, well, maybe we'll stretch it to Mediterranean. I'll pick up Italy. Plus, when you figure Battle of Britain, Cachello, D-Day, Market Garden,
there's stuff to
There's
pick.
a lot of battles to pick. And like I said, the American soldiers, if you put them in your war game, you're going to sell more. So you see a lot of Bulge games, a lot of Market Garden games because they're going to sell. But okay, my number 5 is Ardennes 44, Mark Simonich, GMT. I think it was 2003, yeah, and then they reprinted in 12. The 2012 reprint has a second map. The game is way bigger than this table. I tell people, save a lot of that. Second edition one's going to actually cost you like $100. The first one you can probably get for $30. Get the first edition because the thing's too big and too unwieldy, but the scenarios work nicely, especially as you get late in the game. Germany's not going to win. You kind of figured that. It's historical. But I'd recommend the first edition because I don't think the second edition was worth the cost difference. But it's interesting, it's detailed, but it's not a huge rule book, but it's got a lot of nice chrome touches. It might seem weird, like when you're figuring out which roadblocks or something randomly disappear. Well, it's the way he works it in mechanically. It's hard to explain, but it's really slick. I come out saying, wow, that's neat. Well, it's Simonich. I mean, the dude's genius. And I've played a lot of the Bulge games. I haven't got to play the Bitter Woods. I like to play it. I've heard that those two are often mentioned right up near the top, but Ardennes is the best one I've played. That's my number 5.
All right, my number 5 is a solitaire game, Patton's Best. You're a tank, and you're moving on a board where everything shifts, and it looks like you
Right,
don't
instead
move.
of you, it graphically works that instead of you moving to things, the things move toward you.
Right. It's got like almost spheres of influence or distance or range, and they'll move, or as you rotate, you'll shift things around on this almost like a dial. It's a very unique concept. I still think they could reprint this from the German side, and you're in a Tiger. I always say I thought it would work better just because that Tiger could take so many hits, and you could really play against if it's Shermans or even T-34s moving on you. I always thought it would work better from that side. It does great. I love the Sherman. You've got different Shermans. You can play the campaign system where you're able to improve your tank as you go, get a better gun. It's the first time I learned about the Brits having the Firefly with the 8-pounder gun on there, and how that gun can reach out and really do what it should do, opposed to that short little 75. So, but Patton's Best, great tank simulation game, solitaire play. You learn real quick. The 88s are brutal.
And that's the only problem I've got with the game, is that what the game does, I've mentioned it before, but what the game does is part of the mechanics of the game is finding, you see that something is out there, but you have to find out what it is. And the game works on the assumption that until you find out what it is, you're up against a Tiger tank and you're up against an 88 millimeter gun, which yes, you have to react carefully, but everything that's out there isn't going to be able to tear you apart. Whereas, if it's an 88 until you find out, that part kind of, I have to house rule.
Yeah,
when I do it.
Because that was the other thing I learned. I was playing this as a kid, use of smoke. The use of smoke for maneuver and your terrain is key. And so it teaches a lot of those base elements, but you're right. And do you think that was in there? I'm going way back in time when I think of it because I haven't played it recently. Was that in there for you to push forward and recon kind of what things were?
Right.
So that there is that fog of war, yet you've got to move forward. You can't turtle, per se.
Right.
So, yeah, Patton's best, my number 5.
Okay, my number 4. I haven't mentioned Advanced Squad Leader in a while, directly. So, Decision at Elst.
4?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Oh,
Well,
ASL's always number 1.
Yeah.
Well, he could do his default.
I was just shocked when I saw Advanced Squad Leader on the side. I'm like, I think he grabbed the wrong
Decision
game.
at Elst. And the reason I picked this, I do think that ASL is better at portraying the differences between the Germans and their opponents on the Eastern Front. This is part of the Market Garden attack, and this is actually part of the Advanced Squad Leader Starter Kit series, but this is a campaign game, and that's part of the reason why I picked it. It's simple enough to give that a person that's familiar with Advanced ASL Starter Kit, it goes through 3 because you need the vehicles, but you get the campaign experience. I played the campaign a couple times already where the British are trying to push the Germans out, and you've got to get some geographical locations so that when you start the next scenario you don't have to push through them all the way again. So it where you're building on the campaign experience, and that's why for me it's the number 4 Western Front World War II game, because it's the one that at the simplest level lets you experience the campaign system with Advanced Squad Leader. So Decision at Elst.
Very interesting. I had not heard of that. Also, caveat, we oftentimes shoot HAMTAG on a weekday when there is no one else in the home. In order to get a segment filmed, we're filming at night at the home, and there are folks upstairs, so you may hear kids or dishes clanging.
But we're missing the Final 4, so that'll show you how dedicated we are. Or we don't care about basketball.
Right, yeah. I'm 6'6", and I don't care about basketball. Go figure.
Yeah, okay. My number 4 is France 1944, the Allied Crusade in Europe. Victory Games 1986. The great one designed this, Mark Herman. I've talked about this before in the Solitaire segment. It's not a Solitaire game, I just prefer to play it Solitaire. It covers the Operation Cobra, the breakout from Normandy as they run across France. It's really what kind of gamer you are. It's the Allies have way more firepower, and as the Germans, you're trying to make them not reach the Rhine as quickly as they did. It's one of those historical scenarios. It's really the only way you can make a game out of it, because you're past the point of throwing them back into the ocean. If you like to get pounded on and say, well, you didn't beat up on me as much as they historically did, excellent 2-player game. If not, play it Solitaire. It was about probably 85-90% Solitaire with so little hidden. It's like a bidding type of system. You could do it die rolls or house rule it easily. I've talked about this before. It's kind of the headquarters system is kind of the basis of Empire of the Sun. You got nation-specific ones. When you activate them, it'll say you activate so many infantry, so many armor, and then it's got this. The thing that set it apart was it has a track on it that tries to create a real-time movement combat system. You might say for this part, any guys with this movement can activate, they can move, or they can fire, and you start working your way through the track. And it sounds complicated. It's not. I think it's like 12 pages of rules. Excellent victory game rules, but it captures, instead of just doing your little zone of control chess and your odds base thing of I'm 5-1 and I'm going to probably win this one. Instead, you got to have everybody up there. You're not like bringing all these groups in, like this guy and this guy and this guy and this British guy and this American guy are going to. It doesn't work that way. It fits more of the real time where you have to coordinate your units better. And it's surprising. It flies under the radar on the victory games. I never knew why. I've seen some people complain that the combat system is weird because you go through two parts. One captures terrain modifiers, odds, things like that, and the other has morale based. Read the designer notes on BGG. Mark Kerman put an article why it really makes a lot of sense. A couple years ago when he did this, it was up. I'd heard that Consim World Games, I think, was gonna reprint this, but I haven't heard anything. I haven't seen anything on his blog about it. So
wasn't Mark telling you it was going to be reprinted?
Well, I think I just read it on his blog.
Okay.
I'm a stalker. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, no, you're not.
No, he does write an interesting blog though. But anyways, you can find the game. It's 86, but you can find it pretty easily on eBay, secondhand, very, very reasonable price. Half the price of what you buy something for retail easily.
And that's one, because Judd had mentioned it in a previous, oh my gosh, this.
Oh yeah, it's like camo.
Because Judd had mentioned this in a previous taping, I found it relatively inexpensively. Haven't had a chance to get it on the table yet, but I'm looking forward to it. So, yeah, glad to see it on the list.
Now, did you buy this at the reduced price of $10 originally?
Yes, down at Oklahoma City, at the place where I was talking about. It was funny, I picked it up, never even heard of the game, and started looking at it. Hey, good complexity, it's low, I like easy games. Solitaire, it's medium, I can handle that. Then I started reading game design, Mark Kerman, okay, done. As soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, this got to be great.
Yep.
Cool.
So, and it does not disappoint.
My number 4, Memoir 44. I've been playing that system with my son, and it's just so accessible. I really believe it's bringing in people to war gaming, and it definitely for me fits on this list, and I enjoy it. It used to be, I would once you understand that you can't get the cards sometime for what you want to do, and if you're able to meta that and understand that was the intent, that hey, I can't just march over here and swing around this left corner exactly when I want to, that I got to work it with the cards that I'm dealt per se. And then there's a few things that you can work in there and mid around, and that's really where the fun is as far as I'm concerned. The only thing that brings this down for me at all is, I don't like setup and breakdown. Setup and breakdown on this is just, I hate setting up hills and then here's this territory over here, and that's the only thing that brings it down for me.
Okay.
I always thought it was interesting. I think it's one of the weaker offerings from Borg. Like, I love the Ancients, Napoleonic Solid, Battle Cry. I think it's better than Battle Lore. But this is one of those games, if you said, hey, you want to play it this Wednesday? Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. You never have to talk to me twice. I like the others better, but I like this.
Yeah. My number 3 is the Bulge Fast Action game. This is a block version of the Bulge. It's the usual Bulge stuff, goes all the way to the River Meuse. Hidden blocks. The part of, and I think the scenarios are pretty balanced. They have a really pretty good initial scenario that's only about 2 or 3 turns scenario. So I know one time, shortly after I bought this, I was flying somewhere and my buddy and I played it like 6 times at the airport. And then by the end, we were like, oh, that's how you're supposed to make the pieces work. Because the pieces of this that I really like are the assets. Your artillery assets, your engineer units. You've got, like many of the block games, like the Engulf series, you've got blocks for the main forces, but then you've got cardboard counters for some of the ancillary forces. That's what happens here. You've got a counter for the artillery, for your rocket artillery, for your engineers, for some of the individual support units, and you decide when you're going to get them. You decide when you're going to rebuild them, and that also drawing those assets. Your blocks are always on the board, but drawing the assets lets some of the unusual events happen, but only happen, at a time when you don't know they're going to be there. So for me, this is the bulge game that I enjoy the best, maybe because I've got second edition Ardennes 44. So this is smaller. It won't be played in one session, but it can be played in two. So bulge, fast action bulge is my number 3 West Front World War II war game.
I've always wanted to try that. You taught Aaron that, and he said it was really fun. So this one's on the list. Okay, my number 3 is Monty's Gamble Market Garden. And Bart, please go on to BGG and show a shot of the new box cover.
Okay.
Because this is one of the ugliest box covers ever. Does not do the game any justice.
Oh wow. He looks like a
psycho British paratrooper there. Everybody always comments on the box cover, so please put the new one up. It was from 2003. MMP has this up for P500. I think it's like 385 or so. So if you're really interested, that's really the way to go, because they are going to add more things, including a better box cover, but they're adding some things from like their magazines. I don't follow MMP a lot, but they're adding some upgraded stuff to it. Anyway, it is Area Impulse. Michael Ranella designed it. It follows the Breakout Normandy system very closely. When I say that, I've talked about this before, the more tactical style is the Storm over Arnhem, where all the units on the board, either both players pass or every unit's activated. This one has a sunset die roll. Neat idea. When the Allies do their first thing, when it's their turn, when it's their impulse, go back and forth each turn on your impulses. If they make an attack or something, the first die roll counts as a sunset. If you're on the 8th impulse, let's say, and you roll 7 or less, turn ins. So it's variable. If it's 8, weather changes. Otherwise, you keep going. What that kind of represents is you're in this battle, and things, if you roll low, you want to roll high. Things are going very badly, and it's taking you a lot longer to win this battle, and the sun's going down, and the time is your enemy when you're the Allies in this game, as any market garden game. A little more complex on the Area Impulse. It is not Breakout Normandy, Turning Point Stalingrad, that level of complexity, but it's one of the more, when you compare it to the likes of, say, Not War But Murder, Last Battle, Aisham, if you want to get familiar with this system and you pre-order this, try Last Battle, because it's very small rules, and you'll see the core system here. This adds the chrome of the paratroopers, trying to supply them, the artillery, things like this. That's where these games, you got the core system, but then they add all the chrome touches that make this fit this battle. It's very hard for me to pick a market garden game. I mean, same designer made a Hex Encounter one, Mercury Market Garden, that's excellent. There are just so many excellent market garden games out there. I almost skipped it, just like I can't pick one, and I don't want to put 5. Hell's Highway is another great one. But it was tough, but finally when it come down, it's like, I really like Area Impulse, so I'll give this the nod, but it was a really tough decision. And I was trying to do what Greg was. I didn't want to, since there's so much variety, I tried to just pick out one. So this kind of won out my battle for the best market garden game, Monty's Gamble, MMP.
Okay.
My number 3, I'm going to name it, but I'm going to wait to discuss it until you get to it, because it's really kind of your baby, but the aspects I love about I'll cover there. It's Band of Brothers Screaming Eagles. Just so you know, they've also got Texas Arrows that's supposed to be reprinted, right?
It's coming out Kickstarter.
They show
it's
it's
supposed to be
2014 that it came out, because I was just looking. I know.
It was on stalled forever, and then they hit the Kickstarter campaign,
and then they've got
coming out
the Ghost Panzer. So, but we will talk more on that in a moment. It's squad level, and then that's all I'm going to say at this point.
Okay. So my number 2 West Front World War II game, I don't own. I play my buddy's copy, is Mighty Endeavor. It's part of the standard combat series. So I mean, it's hex, counters, move, combat, check supply. There is an exploitation phase in there. So it's very basic war game mechanics, but there's really, to me, not a lot of chrome in it either. But it just really gives a feel for the, now where do I want to do the D-Day landing? How do I want to manufacture my breakout when you're the Germans? How far do I want to move back? Because you're always waiting for the southern France landing to land on your flank, so that you got to swing the barn door to block off against both of them. They have a second edition out that makes it bigger by adding in the Eastern Front, but I'm just talking about the Western Front part of Mighty Endeavor. That is, we talked about, not doing Italy, not doing the Mediterranean, because there's enough stuff in Western Europe. That's all of Western Europe in a box. Mm-hmm. So to me, my number 2 West Front World War II game is Mighty Endeavor of the Standard Combat series.
Okay. My number 2, I wasn't kidding when I said I really like Area Impulse. Breakout Normandy. This is basically the D-Day landings on trying to push through the...
Mine's at home.
Okay.
We all got her.
Oh, we do? Okay.
Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, this was put out 91 by... let's see, 92 by Avalon Hill. That's my version. You can still find these pretty... I think I got mine unpunched for $22.
Oh, you're a bad man.
No. L3 put one out. I've seen the question forever asked which is the better one. This has a mounted map. L3 has some nicer artwork, I think, on some things, so it's really what you want. Excellent game. It's like Monty's Gamble. It's what I consider. This is the most complicated of the Area Impulse games I have. It's not a complicated game, really. The rule book's got some layout issues. It's the Don Greenwood thing about, where would I find this? Well, it seemed like it'd be here. No, it's not. It's in this obscure part. But it's not that, it's not that complicated. If you've played Area Impulse games, you can see how many of them are rooted in this. I always mention I have a lot of Michael Ranella games. He goes to WBC and played this. He's won it before, so you can see the influence on his games. This was such a blast. I love the supply. It always stands out to me how there's a supply management portion in this. It's a real blast. Mm-hmm. The chrome rules for the artillery bombardments, the airborne landings, all that chrome, it makes it more complicated than, say, some of those others I mentioned
or
last
the Storm Over.
Yeah.
All the Storm Over series are like vanilla area movements.
And the system is so robust. No matter what war battle, you pretty much are going to have to assault into an area to conquer, because these areas are big enough. It's not a town is the map. A town is a dot in an area. So you're going to have to assault to take it, and the defenders are going to have the terrain advantage. So you bring this in, and who you're bringing in, and if you have things like air power, it's going to modify your dice and do your step losses. So it's a very solid system that can stretch across a wide variety of battles. And once you see it implemented, you got the core. But it's the chrome touches is what I love so much about this one. So yeah, that's my number 2, Breakout Normandy. It just kind of covers my D-Day basis.
I've heard so much good stuff on this. I went and sought out a copy. He let me know I paid too much for it on eBay. That was good.
Patience, must have patience.
I know. And then he and I are going to Vassal play this. So, did you just get yourself with water?
Yeah.
So, we're going to play it over that. My problem with this was I don't, with the family and everything, just to sit down and play, I have problems. But we're gonna Vassal this. So,
yeah.
Any comments on it?
Nothing else. It's one of the standards of the system and of that battle.
Yeah, I would say these are snapshots in time. Come back in a year, maybe Operation Dauntless that just came out. I just got it. Festoon Europa, stuff like that might be in there. But when I did the World War II, top 5 World War II games, that was in there. That wouldn't change.
It's really held the test of time. I would run into people and they'd go, "You got to play that."
Yeah.
They would just, they would say it's such a good game for Normandy.
Yeah, when we did the World War II video, that snapshot, there's a lot of games that have shifted, and I think my one's still there, but and this was in there. That thing, I don't think that'll ever change. That'll probably always be a top 5 World War II for me.
All right. We're at number 2, right? Mm-hmm. All right. Ambush is my favorite Solitaire system. It's one of my favorite games of all time. I've thrown in Purple Heart on this one. It's a module that adds on to the first 8 missions of Ambush. Ambush goes ambush, move out, gives you 4. Purple Heart gives you, I think, 6. It's an 8-man squad. I don't know if I'm saying person. Nowadays it could be persons. You could have a woman on your team, not in World War II. It just Solitaire play, story-based, choose your own adventure style where you're controlling your soldiers. So I love Ambush. I love the system. It's a comic book and a movie set in World War II. You're not going to do things that were really realistic, although I'm sure a few people had to charge tanks. But it's just fanciful fun war game.
Question for you. Is this a game you could pull out 10 years not playing it and just sit down and play it, barely consult the rules at all, if at all?
Yeah, the only thing I ever have to do, because I'll pull out Ambush, it's pushed further and further now, but I've forgotten the scenario, so I can sit down and play them and not know where the sniper is going to pop up now. The only thing I always have to refer to is what they call their action round track, which is up on the front. It was too small. I've actually created an actual 8.5 by 11, because there's some things you do based on the guys and their, I forget what they call them, their intelligence points or IPs or something. On when they activate, and there's a die roll, and so it could be good. They might get 2 actions in a turn. They may get 1. They may flat out panic and do nothing for you. And I always have to look and refer to that again just to make sure I'm getting that right. And when I talk to people that have played, some people get confused on that thing as well.
Okay, when I did my 30 games in 30 days Solitaire thing, shot the video on it, I kept trying to get Ambush in there, and I set it up, and it's funny, I played the first scenario, and I knew right where the Germans were at. He's going to be here, he's going to be in this building, all this stuff. I could remember, it's been like 4 years since I played it. It's like, oh, this game will come back to me. I hit that part, and I just stopped and put it up. I was like, man, I wish Bart was here. He'd probably just be like me in Starfleet battles.
Well,
you do this,
go
do this,
from, I forget what they call them now, conditions conditions are the different cartridges, but you go from action rounds to something else. One's really fluid and it moves, but as soon as you make contact, everything goes.
Yeah.
And some people, I got to admit, when I play it now, I'm kind of like, it's a little clunky if I'm playing now. I think some systems do it better. Do you know there's new cards out for the Ambush system that make the cards look really, really cool?
Cool.
So the player cards, instead of them being a manila, tear them out along the perforated edge, they've actually got the vehicles and stuff. So you can go get these at, I forget the name of the company, but it's almost a required upgrade. So.
Okay, so my number 1.
Yes, sir.
I broke the rule that Judd said he was going to try and do.
We never
because
said
I didn't. I know. I didn't go into North Africa, but I did go into Italy. Anzio is my number 1 West Front war game. This is an old game. This was before I started buying a bunch of war games. They had when I first subscribed to the General, they had a deal where you could get 7 games for $50.
Wow.
And this was one of them. But this is a game, you don't fight for the toe of Italy, you don't fight for Taranto, but everything else, everything from the Salerno landings, the Anzio landings, and all the way up, the map goes all the way up to the top of Italy, and it's the chess-like game. It's relatively low piece density. You've got a lot of counters to set up because it's step reduction. But it's really low piece density, but it's like, man, I need to hold this spot so I can hold this, get this defensive benefit from the river. And then, I can move, back to here, and, moving back, there's not a lot of chrome. Air attacks is just, you add 1 point into the attack and things like that. But there's a 15-turn campaign scenario where you're just trying to take some pieces in the southern part, maybe 1 or 2 past the middle of the map, as I recall, or you can fight for the whole campaign. But it's just it's like old-time wargaming at its best, but it still feels, you're thinking the whole time. So Anzio is my number 1 West Front World War II war game.
That had variable landings like D-Day, didn't it? The old D-Day Avalon here, where you don't have to go to Anzio. They had different zones.
They had several ports along both coasts were rated for how many could initially land, how many could come in on a second landing, and how many could be supplied through there.
Yeah, Fortress Europa has that. I love that system because you can do the what ifs.
Right.
So, okay, my number one, Bart alluded to it. Anybody knows me wouldn't be surprised at all by it. Band of Brothers, Screaming Eagles, Worthington 2011. The game was a revelation to me, and this was the first edition. The second edition, the Kickstarters are saying are coming out in May. Mounted boards, and for such a simple system. It was a little mathy. The Jim Crone who made this he started electrical engineer, so I can associate and feel it. But if you're the kind of person that doesn't like to take 3 minus a -2 and see that's a 5, you want the Ghost Panzer system. He just simplified the counters and changed the math, where instead of doing that kind of math, you take the modifier and add it to the die roll instead of the defender. And he simplified it a little bit more. It didn't change the percentages. It just and once that came out, people are like, yeah, I love this. Can we have some updated counters for Screaming Eagles? Well, I went into the Vassal module that I was playing myself and just graphically updated them. But they said, yeah, when Texas Arrows comes out, we're going to put a set of counters in there for Screaming Eagles if you want it. Well, then they did the Kickstarter, offered mounted boards on this, the updated counters, and did it with the Ghost Panzer and the Texas Arrows. They all have the mounted boards now if you want it. So if you want it cheap, you can probably go out and find somebody that's upgraded and it'll sell you their first edition cheap, beg them to give you the counters from their Texas Arrows game. But anyways, that's how that works if you're interested in it. What I love about it is, the thing that always bugs me most of my squad level games is I know too much. I know this guy cannot activate. He's used his points, he doesn't have a card or whatever. When this happens, when you're looking at it realistically, you're not charging across an open field and saying, I know that guy can't shoot back at me. Well, when this happens, you might have put a whole lot of suppression fire on him, but there's always a chance he can get up and fire at you. He's never completely out of it. And the great thing is, until you try, even if he's done something that turn, you move next to him, he can automatically activate. And neither side knows if he's going to stay cowered down or if he's going to jump up and blow you to bits. So there's this, it's a more of a fog of war thing, and it really works the 4Fs, find him, fix him, flank him, and finish him really well. Does not tell a real great narrative, so if you're a combat commander guy who wants a superhero story or the ambush, the sergeant, you're not going to get it. It's a very detailed, it's not a detailed, it's a very simple rule system, but it's a great tactical study of World War II doctrine. Ghost Panzer, he went into heavy research on it and then created the game, tweaked a little bit for how the Russian troops work. It is getting a little bit of scope creep to it, where this original rule book was, I think, 4 or 5 pages and you were playing infantry scenarios. 3 more you're adding vehicles, guns, things like this. And then they start adding the new rule book, you see sections, Ghost Panzer only, Screaming Eagles only, and it's starting to scope creep and get bigger. But the system is still very elegant in how simple it is. I can swing either way, this system or the Ghost Panzer that I talked about, that subtle difference. I can go either way. So there's nothing wrong with it. I said it's just a little more mathy if you like it. But that was the one. All this is West Front. It follows the 101st Airborne from D-Day on through Market Garden with different scenarios. There's no victory points, so I'm not doing things to try to game the system. The scenarios are usually you're clearing the board. You're not really killing everybody. You're securing the area. When you kill a unit, it's more like the morale broke, they dispersed, you captured some things like this. But you're clearing areas or getting guys to certain, like first one, you have to get guys across the map because they're trying to regroup after the D-Day landings. So you get a very realistic feel for such a simple package. That's what blew me away. Love the system. It's in my bin ever since I played it. I played the sucker nonstop for 5 years. I've never found a gamey move where I've done something that just didn't feel like that's what I'd really do if I was there and not cowering and sucking my thumb or something. It was like, when I taught a guy this and he goes, what do you think I'd do? I said, well, what would you do if he was really there? He said, well, I'd try this. I said, try it. Mm-hmm. So it's but anyways, that's my favorite. Always been a top 5 ever since I started playing it.
It really does feel like military doctrine in terms of one unit is supposed to put a volume of fire on a target, and in terms of just pinning them down. and then the other unit maneuvers on them. And that's really, what you're doing here, and it works really well.
Yeah, you pin them, you move in, you get into close combat. It's very abstract at that point. It's not going into the real great detail at that point because it's really looking for the big picture, the 4Fs, the military doctrine. But you're not going to kill your unit sitting across and shooting at them. You got to get them up close. That's what you probably heard the stuff. How many average bullets were to kill a person?
Yeah, to this day, in the military, one of the main reasons we carry the 223 with the M16 is you can carry on a combat load a lot more rounds than you can with a 308, with a 30-06. And it's all about putting a volume of fire down so someone else can maneuver on them.
Yep. All the units have 2 different levels of suppression. It's called yellow and red, and it's harder to activate your unit. Roll a D10. If he's perfectly fine and healthy, it's 10. He's automatic pass. It might be 5 if he's at yellow suppression and 2 if he's at red. And it depends on the units. The German units, by this point, they were using less elite troops. More of those guys are on the Eastern Front, so their numbers aren't near as good for morale as the paratroopers are. Mm-hmm. So he works that into the system also. If you've been hit and you flip to the reduced side, now your full strength level of unsuppressed is 9. But anyway, so he separated the kill and the suppression. The suppression.
Keep talking.
Okay, so that's what I love about the game. My number 1, West Front, World War II.
All right. I wasn't going to pull it down, but Heroes of Normandy it's a miniatures game that they've used cardboard and put it down on an actual board game format. It's very cartoonish, very Hollywoodish. It includes heroes that can do special things. It's very close quarters. They do an excellent job of putting all the information on the counter. So there's not a lot of referencing back. Now, when you first play and I always say this wrong, is it iconography or is that, okay, the iconography takes a little bit to get down. And whenever I go back and play a new expansion that came out or whatever, I always got to remind myself, okay, that's the assault. This is this vehicle's main gun. That's the vehicle's machine guns. But all of that's in there, and it just visually is stunning. This is a stunning visual game, and just carries in a lot of the tactical things that the miniature games have as well, and it brings it in at a price point that is much more achievable because of the cardboard instead of the minis. So it's also put out by Yellow, which amazed me when I first got it because they've really backed and supported this. Expansion after expansion, and then Shadows over Normandy is the Cthulhu spinoff, and I was getting crap from guys because I was saying I like this system. I want to see something on the Eastern Front or something in Pacific, and I had guys going, it's Heroes of Normandy. Well, then Shadows over Normandy came out, and we're in Cthulhu land. Come on, if you can do that, can't we have Heroes of Stalingrad? Or, spin it whatever way you want. But, I like things that spin and grow and change. Yellow's really supported it, and it just, as long as you don't mind the cartoony movie-esque aspect, you'll enjoy this. If you want something that's more simulation and hardcore grognard, probably not. But again, works well with my kid. It's lighter and it's fun. So, Heroes of Normandy, my number 1 World War II games, West Front.
P-17?
That's air. I almost consider that a 4th front.
Okay.
I really do. I just finished reading. Band of Brothers. And Pacific and Spielberg and Hanks are doing the 8th Air Force right now. There's going to be an HBO miniseries, and I can't remember the source material, but I just read the book. It really takes you from beginning to end.
Wild Blue?
No, it wasn't. I'll put it in the notes or I'll flash it up. But great book, and they talk about how really the air war was a whole nother front, and how they use that. They also get into how they kept thinking, we'll take out ball bearings, we'll take out sub pins, and none of that worked. But that's now we're into the minutia. But that's why B-17 isn't in here. No air game was in here, and there's tons of great ones.
Another one that surprised me that didn't make it was D-Day at Omaha Beach. I thought that was going to be on somebody's, but
I looked at it. I don't know. What did you have you played it? You've played that before.
It's the Solitaire one.
Right.
Right?
It is, yeah.
That a colorblind person can't play?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I mean, when I hit mine, I went one D-Day game and said breakout Normandy, but I don't know, I was kind of surprised.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
It's one of those things about why didn't you, we considered it. It wasn't, when you get the questions, what about this? Well, it was considered.
That is a good point. Yeah, that's why no air game made it in here.
Okay.
We haven't even done an air whole game, have we?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I could see that as
Be
a
a fun
future
topic.
episode. Yeah, there's so many actually, even as I was looking. So World War I games. So, but that's why those didn't make it in for me. So,
All right.
HAMTAG!
HAMTAG, we're out of
See you
here.
guys.
See ya.